We talked about the Joe Milton, like that there was a possibility that, and I was hearing from New England that they weren't really sure they wanted to trade Joe Milton.
But you told us they would probably take a 5 if they were going to.
Yeah, and they end up doing that.
You've been all over this thing.
Dominated the coverage, Brian.
Well, the thing about it was, though, like I say, the people that I talked to in New England, it's the new coaching staff.
Really?
Yeah, it's you have and what's funny about Joe Milton is when you talk to people kind of around the league, you kind of get this split feeling about him as, is he a guy that's a problem? And some people are saying no, he's a problem guy, and then others are like, well, no, he's not a problem guy. He's a really good guy. He wants to start. He wants to contribute. He wants to be a good teammate and all that. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things usually you hear something like, oh no, great guy, but this time around it was, well, maybe not a great guy, but then you go back and check and it's like, no, this guy's a great guy. I don't know where you're hearing that crap, So I have a feeling that Joe Milton will come in here and make, and do things that the Cowboys want him to do, when it comes to, he understands what his role is or what his role is going to be. As we've talked about here a bunch, potentially, with Dak Prescott, the last 3 years with the injuries and stuff like that, he realizes that there's going to be an opportunity potentially here.
But you got to know your role as a backup quarterback. You're not going to last long trying to ask for playing time in a situation where they got their guy.
Yeah.
But that's good to know. I think just watching what he's done, it's exciting to get something new in the building. We knew Cooper Rush wasn't going to give you upside. We knew Trey Lance was a lost cause. Now here's another guy that gives you a chance.
Yeah, and and you guys were asking me, about, we were trying to figure out, how do you get an extra third round pick, or how do you get an extra, how do you get a fourth round pick, and when could you use it on a quarterback? And I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's, if you're thinking about the Quinn Ewers and, people like that, great. But, the possibility of you maybe getting that pick and then using it on a quarterback like a Quinn Ewers or something like that, I didn't think was going to happen. But I wasn't completely, like, I was talking to you guys about like guys like Dylan Gabriel and guys like that, that I just couldn't bring myself to think, okay, well, I'm going to get super excited about picking one of these guys in the 5th round. And it's, they've done that before. They've picked, the Stephen McGee's and guys like that.
Oh yeah.
That have been those 5th round guys or whatever. And they just haven't worked out. I mentioned Riley Leonard as another guy from Notre Dame. Myself, I was talking about, hey, I'd love to get a chance to draft Jalen Milroe, but I don't think that was going to be a possibility there. Curtis Rourke from Indiana was probably a 5th round guy. I really wasn't totally, excited about as potentially as drafting that guy. So to me, I understand why Dallas did what they did and going out and getting this guy. And so I'm excited from that aspect, because I don't think just looking at these quarterbacks, these down the line quarterbacks, that any of these guys are going to be any good. And this kid, when you watch him on tape, and I have to admit, I have to go back and watch some of his preseason tape. I got caught on a couple podcasts this morning, and I got caught on DallasCowboys.com. I did get to go through the game where he played against the Bills, and I'm going to say this: I liked what I saw with this guy. I like the fact that he has that mobility in the pocket. I like the size. He looked like a guy that when you watch him play, and I was, I got the end zone copy, sideline copy, so I could see him looking at the coverage. I could see where his eyes were when it came to, from the end zone copy, where he was looking at. And for a guy that does not have a lot of NFL experience, you could see him processing where he needed to go with the football. And there was a part of the game where Buffalo was trying to kind of play him straight up, and he kept making throws. he kept completing passes, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. And then so what happened? They started bringing more pressure on him. They started trying to blitz him more and show some different looks and stuff. And he handled that just fine. And I was like, okay, cool. Eyes are here. There's the throw. Eyes are here. There's the throw. And he got the ball everywhere he needed to be. But the arm talent is tremendous with this guy. It is. And there's some questions about his ability with the touch. Just in the one game that I was watching of him, like I said, the touch didn't seem to be the problem. It was the
airmail in it,
the ball placement, the ball placement. And when I mean the ball placement with the player was, it's a
moving targets.
Yeah, well, okay. So they're running a route where he's going from looking at receiver to maybe looking at tight end on a check down or right in the middle of the field or like a little hitch route or something right there. And instead of the ball being between the numbers, it's behind the receiver. And that happened a couple of different times. And I was like going, well, man, okay. People say his touch is really bad. Well, it just looked like
the timing.
It's the timing of it. And and I told you guys what
it's hard to teach that.
Yeah, maybe not playing the whole year, then all of a sudden you're out there trying to make throws. And that to me was the biggest thing that I noticed. That like where instead of throwing it in front, he's kind of throwing behind, and now his guy's having to turn and then catch it, and then because
that's a play killer.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of run after catch. Now the one throw he made, and Eric, I don't know, maybe you could go. This might be a YouTube clip or something like that. Joe Milton touchdown or whatever against Buffalo. But like you said, there's one where he's spinning out of there, and it was a holding penalty. The right guard just tackles the Buffalo defender, the official. It's an easy call. He spins a couple different times and throws it at the pylon, and it is a rope, but it's a holding penalty. Comes back.
Special play.
Yeah, but he throws one, and I mentioned this of him going to his right. And
was this the one to Booty? Did the 48-yarder to Booty?
The touchdown.
Yeah.
The touchdown. So, yeah, Booty's coming from the left side. He's rolling right, and he goes to the middle of the field. And you're thinking, like, don't do this. Don't, because you can see him loading up to throw it back inside, and you're like going, don't do this, don't do. And then you're like, oh, my gosh, he just completed this ball. And I think even the Buffalo defenders,
they couldn't believe it.
They couldn't believe that he even tried this throw. But it shows you the type of ability that he does have to be able to move and to be able to throw. But I said this, he does a really good job of stepping into his throws. And I think that's why he has the arm strength that he does, is because of that ability to when he gets set, he gets the snap, and as he's coming forward, you see him striding into the throw.
Mm-hmm.
And when that foot hits, that ball is out. And it's got some velocity on it. So he can clearly make all those throws.
Yeah, young cannon arm, mobility, super cheap. I mean, it checks off all the boxes.
I was really impressed with his poise too, because I mentioned they started blitzing him, and he was kind of just, he was hanging in there. I mean, there was a couple times where he's like, he couldn't escape, and he just had to hang in there, and he had to make that throw. So the poise under pressure in that game was good. I thought he kept his eyes down the field because, like you say, you could watch the end zone copy and you could see him kind of looking in that throw he made to the middle of the field, and then the whirly throw where they had the holding call. Eyes were downfield on those plays. So I was super impressed with this kid. The tight window throws, the delivery of the ball in the teeth of the rush, the good throws off some play action stuff that they did. So all this stuff was kind of in shotgun formation. The fakes, the RPO stuff, but he was doing the fakes. Really Buffalo not buying it because New England's got no running game, but at least he was finding ways to trying to manipulate the defense in order to get some of his guys open. And I really like the fact that he was buying himself, second and third chances throwing the football. And so that part of it was very, very encouraging to me, which is much better than these 5th and 6th round quarterbacks I'm watching in this current draft that I was thinking was going to be the guys that I was probably going to select from. And I was not too elated to have to do that.
A lot of good Joe Milton videos here on social. If you want to breeze through them, you'll see him throwing the ball at 1.80 yards while at Tennessee, dorking around on the field.
Yeah.
Yes. At a camp.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
He can
good
throw
feet,
that thing.
Yeah.
You can see him making throws and way down the field the receiver is catching, and he likes to time that up with a backflip sometime during workouts.
They showed it. They
does
showed
quite a few backflips.
The touchdown.
Here.
I didn't see that in the film. Like the next play, he has a touchdown in the game, and he does a backflip. That's kind of his signature move, as you would say. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it's fun to have a player with these traits in going into Oxnard. I think that becomes my number one player of intrigue, at least before the draft.
I think better than a Cooper Rush type of.
No question.
We've seen this.
Yes,
we've seen this. So good for the Cowboys making a deal like this for their compensatory. What are their compensatory 5s? Is what they. I think it's the second to last pick in the 5th round is what they're dealing with right there. That's the one they traded away.
Do they have any 5s left?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, good.
They do. Yeah.
Chief, and they get the 7th round pick back. I mean, it seems like all these trades that they're doing, they're getting some level of pick in return.
Yeah, that pick they get back from New England is the first pick in the 7th round. Oh. So it's, you never know.
It's a hot commodity.
You never know. I mean, just never know.